apologize for jumping on here a little late. We just were able to finish up a quick walkthrough in the indoor, so ran upstairs, but it's still good to do press conferences in sandals, but I wish I could see you guys in person, but hope everybody's doing well. Obviously, we're excited about multiple things today, right? As we continue to get ready for the Hawaii Bowl. I know our guys are very excited about the task at hand. We'll continue to talk about the focus and the ultimate goal of trying to find a way to win that bowl game. Also pleased, with today's signing class, just so I can mention ahead of time, I'm not able to discuss Division I transfers. So just to give you guys a heads up on that, I can't discuss that with the media publicly until they're enrolled in school. So those are some of the things. Named Charles Clark, our interim DC. I told him and the defensive staff we're going to continue to evaluate everything like we've done in the past. But they're all on board. The players understand what we're trying to get accomplished. So we will continue to evaluate where we are there. We understand, obviously, Calvin Alston deciding to forego the bowl game to go pursue the NFL draft. Supportive of him and his decision. I know he's got a bright future, and he'll always be a Memphis Tiger legend. So I wish him the best. But look, exciting days here at Memphis, right? A great bowl game to get ready for. Our guys have been dialed in and ready to get over there, but we still got work to be done. And then obviously a fantastic signing day for the future of the Memphis football program.
Frank, and then Evan.
Hey, Ryan, a little bit more on the defensive court situation. When you're naming him interim DC going into the Hawaii Bowl, is it business as usual in terms of scheming, or I guess is there any type of learning curve for the players going into this Hawaii Bowl?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a little bit of difference, right? I mean, it's a new play caller. You've got time, so you can change up a little bit of scheme. This is not like it's hey, you got 6 days to get ready and you got to go. If it was a shorter time period, I think you just run your base defense. But I think with having more time, you got to be creative. And that's one of those things. Especially I know Hawaii will be on here listening, so we're planning on bringing maybe a completely different defense over to the islands.
And then looking at your signing class, when you look at the in-state guys that you were able to sign, especially the in-town guy in Tevin Carter, how important is that for you to be able to get some of those guys in your own backyard? Yeah,
look, we recruit Memphis as diligently, as hard as we possibly can. I mean, we try to find ourselves in as many high schools as we can, make as many connections as we can with people in the 901. I think it's important, and we do work hard. I know a lot of people want to sign every kid here, and it's impossible. We got to find the best fit for us in the best positions. But I do believe in keeping guys in state as best we can. And we work hard at it. And look, we understand there's some local guys that want to go other places, but if they're the right fit for us and the right match for us, we'll try to keep them here in the 901. Obviously, Tevin Carter has a wonderful story. Excited about him. He's a young man. Obviously, the recruiting process, can't start till later on, but I've known of him, right? He's been in the news and in the papers for a long time, and excited to add him. And then the rest of the guys from our great state.
And then it was a pretty busy last couple of days for you guys in terms of the JUCO commitment. How important, or I guess how influential has the JUCO sector been in recruiting in these last few years?
Yeah, we do recruit junior colleges. Obviously we're in a unique situation, obviously having the Mississippi junior colleges down there. A lot of other teams have said they're just going to make a living in the transfer portal. And I think you got to find that fine balance. You guys, last year we were very heavy in the high school recruiting, and we still got tons of high school commitments and signees this year. But I think you got to figure out, okay, where's that fine balance, Frank? And, and it is looking at junior colleges, right? I mean, all the way out into California, and it's about finding the right connections. Now, are we going to be out there camp-based in California all the time? No. But you got to find them where the best fit for you, whether it's Kansas, Iowa, JUCOs, Mississippi. And sometimes those type of young men that, for whatever reason ended up there, we're glad to bring a part of it. But I think this day and age to just sit here and say, okay, hey, we can only recruit transfers. We can only recruit JUCO. We can only recruit high school. Now we got to find that fine balance. And, that's part of that roster management. Okay, where is this piece of the puzzle? Where are we as far as depth? And you guys know this good and well. I mean, you could sit there and have great depth at one position and, snap a finger. I think there's want to say 3 programs that lost 4 running backs in the transfer portal, within 3 months. And that can all of a sudden, you want to talk about your room flipping and looking for depth. I'm not talking about us. I'm just saying in general terms. So we're always got to have our eyes open on everything that's out there and available.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Evan, and then Steven.
Ryan, going back to Tevin Carter a little bit, obviously this is somebody who, as you mentioned, has been known almost around these areas since he was in 8th grade. So I guess being able to bring in a quarterback with his reputation, obviously, just as far as his ranking goes, just how much is it going to help this group, just having somebody like a Tevin Carter, who also obviously brings in those local ties?
Yeah, look, anybody that's had the opportunity to meet Tevin, he's got such an infectious, wonderful personality. He's smart. He cares. He loves this city. And I think that's going to be huge for us to pay dividends, because I always say this: the best ambassadors for our program, for our city, are our current players. And then you have somebody of his likeness that's well known throughout our community, and you're bringing him into the football family. It's excellent, right? Not just for right now, but for future Tigers. It's great for the city. And so you add all those things together, it's a dynamic package that we got with him. And he's a great football player. And so you put all those things together with what he'll be able to bring to the table. It's exciting, because look, I always say this, our coaches are out on the road recruiting. Our program sells itself, the school sells itself. But man, when you got players that are well known, especially in this community, it can only assist, in our efforts to continue to bring in like-minded individuals.
And speaking of football, you could just break down, obviously we've heard about his arm, but just what does he bring on the field?
Yeah, I mean, he's got incredible intangibles. He's very, very smart. He's studied the game of football since a young age. So he's got a great feel for coverages, blitz schemes, all those things. And, I think that, and then you tie that in with his leadership qualities. Like I talked about, that infectious personality. Well, anytime you have a quarterback out there that's smiling, that's happy-go-lucky, but dialed in when he gets between those white lines, a fierce competitor, amazing arm strength and athletic ability. I mean, for a guy that's, weighing probably almost, 225 to 30 pounds. I mean, he is a put together, for lack of a better term, strapping young man. And he's got a great arm, and he's got all the physical tool set. Obviously, he's going to, the pace of play at college football comes at you a little bit quicker. So look, he's going to get thrown into the mix like all of our guys that come here. That's part of the way we do things. And he competes and he cares. With him being here in January, I think that'll certainly help himself.
All right. And then with you guys going back to the junior college pipeline, if I recall, I don't think you guys, I know Eddie Lewis came into the spring, but if I recall, I don't think you guys signed a JUCO player last season. So just curious if you could explain more what was kind of the change in philosophy, because I know previously Memphis has found success in the JUCO ranks. You've seen that here being an assistant. So what kind of led to that change in philosophy with dipping more into the JUCO ranks with guys like Landfear and Peoples and some of these other guys?
Yeah, it's twofold, right, Evan? Last year was very high school heavy in our recruiting class. As a reminder, a lot of the transfers we took last year were walk-ons, regardless of star rankings and, coming from scholarship opportunities. And so I've, with us building up a young, youthful class, we don't have a lot of young guys that played. I said, okay, now how do we fill out that middle of our roster? I think that's part of it, and it turns into it, right? We know that whether they're guys that opted out or were dismissed from the team or whatever it may have been, there was kind of a little bit of a piece missing in our roster. And so, a lot of people say, hey, let's just go live in the transfer portal and see who we can find. But I think sometimes a lot of the junior college guys that were very talented may have been neglected because people were just waiting to see who else they could grab from another program. And so that's why I say it's advantageous for us. Do we recruit junior colleges heavy out in California? My time here, Evan, I want to say maybe 1 or 2 others. I can only think of one right off the top of my head that we've gotten from California, but we've had success, obviously, the Mississippi JUCOs and some guys from Kansas. But I think it was important just find the best fit for us. And as you guys well know, when that, right after the season, it was fast and furious. It's like you mentioned, it's like speed dating, whether it's a guy going in the transfer portal and you got 24 hours to have that opportunity to see them, or a junior college guy, my first time to be able to see them face to face and to bring them to campus. That was part of it. But we do a great job doing our homework, calling around as many people as we can. We just don't go off of film itself. And, we were fortunate to find some guys in the junior college ranks that we thought were a great fit for the Memphis Tigers.
So do you think it's probably maybe, I don't want to say back to the future-ish, but it's kind of like, hey, this has worked before. Let's mine and then see what happens besides just the transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it's find that fine balance, we're not done. I'll just say that we've got some more names that will be coming across over time. And, you guys always know, I always keep a card up my sleeves that you guys will be pleasantly surprised here, whether it's today or in the next few weeks. But that's just the way we've worked. But let me give credit to our recruiting department. They've done a fantastic job, and our coaching staff. It takes all hands on deck this time of the year, and just proud of their efforts. But long-winded answer to your question, Evan, as I think, will we continue to recruit JUCOs? Yeah. But we also, just like every staff in the country, looking at what comes across the portal, and there's going to be quite a few high school guys. I mean, I got probably 20 calls and text messages yesterday from kids that were dropped by these, college programs. And I don't understand why teams would do that the day before signing day, but it happens. I never want to be a part of it. I can't say I'll never be that guy, but if you know that you're not going to take a guy, I think it's fair that you let them know with plenty of time. But plenty of young men out there that were without a home that had been committed to somewhere for a long time. And, if it makes sense for us to bring them on, great. But if not, then, that's the nature of the business we're in right now.
Last thing for me, obviously you mentioned Calvin. Just curious, will he be going to Hawaii with you guys? And do you expect anyone else to make a decision at this time?
Yeah, so I had a good conversation with Calvin and his family. And, he's been dealing with his ankle injury all season. And, with him being able to get the Senior Bowl invite, I think if it weren't for his ankle, I think he'd be the first one to tell you, Coach, I'd be the first one on the plane and, and enjoy every bit of it and go find a way to help our team win. But I do understand, because he had been dealing with the ankle, and it had been pretty serious. And that's what I credit to him, because the kid kept battling and fighting through it and all that stuff. So he's got to get that right. And he knows that, right, for the Senior Bowl, because if he's hobbling around there, it's going to be a detriment to him. And, I'm probably one of the few college coaches that says, okay, what's best for the guy, right? And there's some of these guys, I've had conversations with our guys, no different when they just say, hey, should I go out for the draft? Well, let me give you my honest opinion. Let me get you an educated opinion. I think, Evan, it's almost like deja vu. I remember having this exact conversation a year ago. How do I find what's best interest of these guys? And with Calvin's situation, we thought it was best that he stays back here and continues to get treatment on his ankle. Those things, I told him, I said, when we get back, let's open up a facility and get you back training, whether he stays here to train or go somewhere else. I don't have those exact answers at this time. And I don't foresee anybody else. I think sometimes the Waikiki Beach is maybe enough selling point for enough guys to come on. So.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, Steven and then Brian.
Okay. Hey, Coach. I was just kind of wondering, how do you balance the time management part with recruiting, with getting ready for Hawaii, particularly with Hawaii having all those different changes on offense, but without the quarterback and the running back leaving, and just getting your team kind of sort of ready? What's it been like for you this past
Yes, sir. Well, Steven, since you probably don't know me, I don't sleep much, so it's been quite interesting. But it's been a whirlwind. It kind of reminds me of when I first got the job. You're just constantly doing different things, and often you find yourself, man, I wish I could just spend more time on the X's and O's, right? It's whether it's the recruiting, dealing with our own players. I'm making the effort to meet with every single one of our players on our roster, and that's not an easy task, right? If it's some are 5-minute conversations, some of them are 20, and you try to meet with 110 guys throughout the day, plus have practices, plus have events, plus recruiting, plus looking at other schemes, doing a multitude of things. I'm not complaining, but it's been quite busy. And I have to remind myself sometimes that the best thing that I can do for this team is find a way to get out of here at a decent hour and get some sleep so I can be energized for them. But ultimately, it's all going to come back to making sure our guys, our current players are good and taken care of, and that we're preparing them the best for a great Hawaii team.
And with Hawaii, with all those changes, that's been difficult to sort of scout them with, having a new quarterback, new running back, some changes in the secondary.
Well, look, I think it's like a lot of teams in college football. I mean, they're probably wondering the same thing. They've seen, a guy like Calvin Austin, that is obviously a difference maker for us. So they're saying, okay, well, what are they going to do differently? How are they going to change things up? Are some of their guys going to be back from injury? And no, Evan, I won't answer that question that you're about to ask. So with that being said, I think that's where we're at. And every team's got roster turnover, right? We've had some, nobody of major note, but it's just, I think we're seeing it through college football, different guys, whether they're going to the portal, all this stuff. So looking more at schemes and stuff like that. Obviously, I know Coach Graham will do a fantastic job of getting their depth ready, whoever fills in those shoes.
And there's also a balance between trying to get you guys rested, which you tried to do with rehabilitation, but also you're playing a team that tries to play with tempo, run a lot of plays, run very quickly. How do you get the legs back? How'd you balance that part out? Or
Yeah, it's, so they had really right after the Tulane game, we gave them a week to study for exams, and all they did was had to get 2 lifts in and really take care of their bodies. And then last week was their exams. And so we couldn't make anything mandatory. We just encouraged them maybe to make sure they weren't sitting on the couch and actually, getting up for their exams and studying and doing those things. And then really this week's been our first week getting back after it. So it's that fine balance, right? A little bit of recovery from a long season of ups and downs, and then the preparation for Hawaii. We can't go out there unprepared and not have practice. We know that the heat may be a different deal for us, the sun, all those different factors that travel. So we still got to work, but I also want them, it's December football. Everybody's tired, and making sure that they're fresh enough. So it's finding that fine balance, and it's a constant feel for it, right? If we get out there and our guys seem exhausted and jet lagged and can't get over things, well, then maybe I got to be smarter what time we're meeting and how long we're practicing. If I feel like, hey, these guys are ready, we need to amp it up a little bit to be ready for Hawaii team, then so we'll do so.
And finally, one last thing. I know every trip is a business trip, but this is Hawaii. It's going to be 80 degrees on Christmas Eve. Are they going to be able to do a lot of things and have fun and not make it as much a business trip? Or
Yeah, Stephen, look, we're all excited to get out there, and we understand, what a special place it is to be able to travel to. We're all so fortunate, and we will, they'll be able to the ability to do some things. It is a business trip, but I'm also not going to be that guy that locks them in their hotel rooms and say, hey, they never got to stick their toe in the ocean. Now they'll be able to enjoy some things. We've scheduled some things. Obviously, the bowl has put on already some great things that we're looking forward to. A bowl game dinner, a luau. Hopefully we have the opportunity to go to Pearl Harbor. That's still up for question with some of the construction going on around that area. But look, our guys will be able to enjoy it, and they've deserved it, and rightfully so. We're appreciative, and everybody's been such gracious hosts, and we haven't even gotten there yet.
great. Thanks again. Safe
Yes, sir.
travel.
Thank you.
Brian and then Terry.
Just make sure you go to Duke's, Coach. That's a great place to eat over there. But talk about when I spoke to these kids in the recruiting class, it just seems like this class more than years past, Tevin Carter, Warren Peoples, they all talk about how hungry they are to win right now and play right now. So if you could, did you sense that as you were recruiting these kids?
Yeah, I think we're in a different day and age, Brian. You've been in this industry for a while now. You want hungry kids that are, want to come in and compete and fight. Now, I'll meet with 115 of our current players, and probably 112 of them tell me they probably deserve to be starting. So that's the nature of 18 to 23-year-olds. But yeah, I do. I think these guys, the biggest thing is, man, Coach, let's get back to winning ways and playing with our edge and doing those things and kind of represent the things that I want our program to be all about, right? Smart, tough, competitive young men that have a little bit of edge to them. And I think that's, I'm not saying we've lost that, but I think that's, who you bring in, you got to be conscious, because that's what the locker room will be ultimately, those guys. And so we found, obviously different age groups of guys that are competitive guys that say, okay, well, let me go in there and compete. And when they do, right, like I said, with us playing so many young guys this past year, I think people out there say, okay, well, he's a coach that's willing to, and I think throughout the country, you go into these high schools and a lot of these coaches like, well, at least if they're good enough, you're going to give them the opportunity. And a lot of these other programs won't, because, coaches are all about just playing the senior or the or finding someone and not trying to play a freshman or a redshirt freshman. Best available guy, let's go. Right. My salary doesn't change one bit whether I play a 17-year-old walk-on or a 23-year-old super senior that's been in all conference. If I can find a better player, we constantly will do so.
I know you guys don't, really worry about recruiting rankings and stuff like that, but Joshua White is the highest ranked, on Rivals. He's a 5.8 4-star. What do you like about his game?
Yeah. Well, Brian, you'd asked last year, like, I don't think recruiting rankings are as important, but that just means if we are and we're doing well, that means that everybody else probably agrees with some of the guys, right? I don't want to look. Our goal is not to always be the number one rated, but if we're the last in conference every year, you guys will probably start questioning saying, "What the heck's he doing?" And I get it, but I'm glad that people think that we're putting together a nice class. That means there's some decent evaluation going on. But yeah, Joshua White is a big young man. That it played both ways. Obviously, his team won state. He got hurt this year. But he's an early grad. And I like those early grads because that means they handled their business in the classroom. And I think that's important because when you get to college, it all happens really quick. And we talk about young guys playing early. It's really hard for a guy that shows up in June, one, to learn the system, two, to handle time management, and being a college student athlete. So when they get here in January, that means they've already had enough maturity. But he's explosive. For a big guy, he's got excellent feet. The turnover, he's got long arms. And like I always said, we'll never hurt ourselves by adding, big bodies in the defensive line.
Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir.
Hey, what's up, Coach?
Terry, how are you?
Doing well. When you have a class of 18 guys that are going to leave out, especially that contributes on the offensive and defensive end, how do you go by, depending on bringing in like freshmen versus transfers versus JUCOs? How do you come up with that concept of replacing that leadership board that that's going to go out the door for next year, and also while taking care of the guys you have on your roster right now?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Terry, because you got to find that fine line. You can't ever say, well, hey, this guy's leaving, so I'm going to replace him with this guy. It never works. This is not, we talk about it being free agency, but this is not NFL free agency, right? You don't lose Calvin Johnson and say, I'm just going to replace him with Randy Moss. That's not how this, works. But you look and say, okay, where in this room, does this room need a vet that could possibly help it, whether it's with leadership or experience, right? Where does this guy fit in? And sometimes it's that fine balance, right? It may be one high school guy, one transfer, JUCO. And so what I'm constantly doing, and every day I literally, and I was going to look at our roster and say, okay, well, if this happens, what do we think this guy could be? And, where it gets all thrown for jumbles. Oh man, player X is now in the portal for us. Okay. Now, do we need to fill that void? Or are we okay? We feel really comfortable with who's in there right now. And so literally every position is different, Terry, as far as that goes. And so constantly evaluate, constantly looking at it. And then you got your numbers game, right? You're still only limited to 85 scholarships. I know I spoke with Evan the other night about it, right? This year was different because the NCAA allowed what's called a +7. You're giving your 25 initial scholarships and then the ability to add 7 more if you had lost 7 to transfer, okay, or to the NFL or however that worked. I don't want to get into the exact word for word legislation on it. So really, there's some of these teams say they hadn't, put anybody else on scholarship because you're still got to keep your 85. But say some of these teams had used some of those scholarships, whether it's for walk-ons or whatever. But there's going to be some teams that are signing 30 guys, and we talked about this, but a third of your roster is going to turn over. At minimum, a third of your scholarship guys are going to turn over every single year right now. And, it'd be harder to keep up with and figure out where guys are. And so I've just got to say, okay, Terry, where does that third need to go and what positions and kind of look at it and manage it as we move on.
All right, Evan.
All right. Ryan, since you mentioned that Joshua White and Tevin Carter will enroll early, do you have an idea kind of how many of the guys who've signed will be here starting in January?
Yeah, so Antoine Barham should. Again, this is barring any, I have not looked at final transcripts, but we're assuming Antoine Barham will. We're assuming all the junior college guys are all early enrollees as well, okay, without mentioning name for name. Trevor Hardy is planning on being an early enrollee. AJ Odom, and Joshua White. So it's always good. Like I said, I think just get them here, understand our culture and how we do things, get them settled and what college football and college life's all about as a student athlete.
And Carter too is among that group, right? Tevin Carter.
So, yeah,
Tevin Carter.
yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure I had the number here. Okay, that was it for me. Thank you, Ryan.